we are live. So, welcome to episode 310
Woo!
of The American Werewolf. I am Michael Martin, the American Werewolf, and I've been awake since 1968. In the house tonight, we've got Big Brother B, Almighty.
That's right, man. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Yeah. It's good to see you, man. And after a long tour of the Far East, once again in the house, we've got John K. Alvarez, and his pledge name is Accord Love. Nice to see you.
American Werewolf, baby.
That is it, baby. 310. Wow, who would have thunk it? So the director for this month, and we didn't get a chance to get to it last week because I think there was just too much going on, and then I think the World Cup match on Wednesday, last Wednesday, we're like, well, let's kick it to Thursday, and I'm like, well, if we're really, and then it's 4th of July weekend, and so hey, let's kick it for a week, which we have, and here we are. The director for the month of July is none other than Spike Lee. And we are starting off with a first-time viewing for me, and we're talking about 1988's School Daze. So I don't own it. I usually have the physical copy to hold up here, but I don't own a copy of this. But if you're ready to go, shall we get it going?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Boogie woogie. So, School Daze, and this is from Wikipedia, is a 1988 American musical comedy drama written and directed by Spike Lee and starring Lee along with Laurence Fishburne, credited back then as Larry Fishburne, Giancarlo Esposito, and Tisha Campbell. Released on February 12, 1988 by Columbia Pictures as Lee's second feature film and based partly on his experiences as a student at Morehouse College in the Atlanta University Center. It is a story about undergraduates in a fraternity and sorority clashing with some of their classmates at a historically black college during homecoming week. It also touches upon issues of colorism, elitism, classism, political activism, hazing, groupthink, female self-esteem, social mobility, and hair texture bias within the African American community. Let's start with John K. Alvarez, because if I'm not mistaken, this film was, and I caught it on the last day of June, was available on Tubi.
Yeah.
But as of July 1st, it has moved away. and I think it's only available in some form or another on Prime. So that's how you'd have to find it now. Like myself, I think, John, you are seeing this for the first time.
That's correct.
Why don't you give me some of your initial impressions, and then I'll go over there to Big Brother B.
Two things were running through my mind when I was watching this and actually did a little research on it. One, initially I was saying I could kick myself for missing this. I'm a huge Spike Lee fan, but I have to admit I didn't really start watching until Do the Right Thing came out. I don't think I've missed, or if I missed any more after that, it was few and far between. But as I was doing more of the research and watching it a bit, I found myself saying, no, I'm glad I caught it now in my older view of the world. Because if I was younger, I'd be picking sides or recognizing the characters, because being in a fraternity myself and actually working with other fraternities when I worked on campus activities, so for different events and whatever, I would be like, oh, that reminds me of this person, that person. But now I really sat and watched the story. And I got to admit, if this is Spike Lee's second, time up at the plate, he hit a nice shot. I don't think he hit a home run, but I know he got at least 3 bases and was rounding third and then wised up and backed up to third base again before they got tagged out. I really found myself enjoying this a lot more than I was expecting.
Okay. Let's go to Big Brother B Almighty. What do you got for us? You are not a first-time viewer of this.
No, I've seen this movie a million times. I think it's one of my favorite.
Let me ask you a quick question. When was the first time you saw it, and then just go from there?
All right, I can't remember when the first time I saw it. I got turned on to Spike Lee by a girlfriend, like 1991 or 92, and it was right in the middle of all the indie films I was watching literally all the time. Constant Kevin Smith and the Coen brothers and Jim Jarmusch and all those movies, and Spike Lee just slid right in there because I watched She's Gotta Have It, and I cannot for the life of me remember the order that I saw all these in, but sometime between 1990 and 95 I saw all those Spike Lee movies, and of all of them, this one's one of my favorites for a lot of different reasons. I own it on VHS still, the VHS that I probably bought for 99 cents and owned. And I remember watching it, in my room at the cabin way back in the day. So I've seen this movie over and over. I love this movie. And it's not his best movie. I won't even try to argue that. But it's definitely one of my favorites to watch over and over, where some of his movies I don't want to watch over and over.
For me, this is a first-time viewing, so June 30th, 2026, 38 years later, I watched School Daze. I have mixed feelings about Spike Lee, and it's possible that I don't understand what it is that he's attempting to do. I watched this movie, and I avoided this movie, actually, for a long time, although I own several Spike Lee films on physical media. And think, we'll talk about those as we go on. Most of everything actually that was in this film are things that usually just make me want to stick my head in a microwave. Having grown up in a black family, mixed race person myself, adopted by 2 black parents, raised in black culture, these were things that were of, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, probably negative 47. In terms of interest. So I did not have any interest in watching a film for 90 minutes or 2 hours, about these sorts of things. And I think I've said this before, it's the catch you get when you have quote unquote black movies or, maybe a black director. The movie always has to be about race in some form or another, which I just have no interest in. And I guess, it's unavoidable. It's never going to happen. You can't just have like a black director make a film about people. Although we'll get to that with Spike Lee. Eventually he did get to that.
I will disagree with you a little bit. I mean, if you're going to make a movie about black people in America in the 90s, you're going to have to discuss race at some point.
I don't think that you can. Well, what I'm saying is you can't make a movie just. I would do it actually just for the fucking shits and giggles of it, just to make a black movie about black people doing things.
Right.
Right.
You know, I don't know how far that would go over. However, getting back to this movie, I sat down and I watched it, and it was everything that I fucking avoided. Like, I could care less about your skin color. I don't care about your fucking hair. But there were some then there were some interesting points in it, and I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting point. Okay, that's an interesting point. But they were few and far between for what was going to hold my interest, although perhaps I walked in with some bias. Then, in the last 5 or 10 minutes, it just gets super fucking dark.
Yes.
It just gets dark. And you're like, what the fuck is happening here? And the whole movie sort of flips on its head. And then it just kind of ends. Like, there's no resolution. And I'm like, is he making a movie saying, don't do any of the things that I just laid out for you over the past 2 hours? That's interesting. So I have a sort of begrudging admiration for this film if that's his message. Stay away from, who gives a shit about skin color? Who gives a shit about hair? Who cares about working people versus college kids? So on and so forth. So let's just, hold on. We got some comments here.
Oh.
And we'll get into it with a little bit of detail. We got Slasher Fred. Even though this movie is a musical, it is mostly a musical. That is where you have characters just singing instead of those who break into song, even though it does have a musical number. And I thought that the musical number about the hair, although I could care less about hair and skin color, was actually extremely well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
The musical number sequence with the hair salon makes me think of the Janet Jackson "What Have You Done For Me Lately" video. Okay, I haven't thought about that in a while. Feels like an African American version of Revenge of the Nerds.
Exactly what it is.
That's awesome. Well, I guess this was before you started to get the Boys in the Hood. This sort of thing. Okay, that's a great fucking observation. This movie also reminds me of the movie Crush Groove, which is musical.
Don't blaspheme up in here.
Not traditional sense. In this movie, Giancarlo Esposito's character mocks a revolutionary character, and to do the right thing, he plays a revolutionary who is mocked for trying to engage in activism against injustice.
Yes.
So it starts out. It's the last week of this pledge period. It's homecoming week, and you've got Larry Fishburne's character. I'm just going to call him Fishburne. We got Fishburne's character he's the political activist on campus. And I sort of like his character. He wants this black college that they go to, it's a fictitious college, to divest of their holdings in South African monies or business interests, because at that time, apartheid is still active, and he considers that to be immoral and an extremely bad example. He wants, the college to have nothing to do with that. But the thing that really grabbed my interest was the conversation after, because he gets called into the dean of students and the president of the college, and they're trying to talk him down, and he has no interest in being talked down, which I'll get into a little bit later on. But the interesting conversation is that after he leaves, between the president and the dean, and I did some research on this, where the majority of black, they can't afford not to take the money, because the majority of black colleges are generally funded by the federal government. It's not like black people are funding their own universities. They're not doing it. And he makes that point that, if you go to Notre Dame, it's funded by Catholics. If you go to Yeshiva, it's funded by Jewish people, by Jews. If you go to Brigham Young, it's funded by the Mormons. But the majority of funding comes from the federal government. And I thought that was just really fucking interesting, because to me it seems, and maybe you guys can get into this or pass on it, whatever, it seems is the federal government funding voluntary segregation. Which to me because there's the argument between, do we still need these colleges? Do you still need only black only colleges? I thought that was a fascinating point. It was like 10, 15 minutes into it. I'm like, fuck, like I didn't know that. I didn't know that because I never had any interest in a black college. I went to a mixed race college with you guys. John knows very well I went to a mixed race fraternity and pledged. And three great men at the table, Fred Weedow, Kyle McGovern, and Wilton Adams, sitting there at the rush table. Shook my hand and said, hey, come on out tonight. We're having a party. But what did you think about that?
When I started watching Spike Lee movies, I expected it to be, I expected those movies to be more indictment of white people. That's what I expected. And I was pleasantly surprised. And this is why I'm a big fan of Spike Lee, even though he's an insufferable douchebag. His movies are great because he turns a mirror on the black community and says, these are our issues. He doesn't say, white man, look what you did to us. He says, black man, look at what you're doing to yourselves. And it's a running theme through all his movies. It's the first 10 movies of his I watched. Being an outsider, I had no idea about these issues among black people. I mean, I'd had black friends and went to majority black colleges, 2 of them, but I was still an outsider. I didn't know these things until I started watching Spike Lee movies and realizing, hey, there's a lot of these issues going on among, the black community. And it was like a fascinating window into what Spike Lee was saying. This is our problem here, and this is our problem there.
Right.
That was a big revelation for me. Because I hadn't thought about those things. So, if he's doing anything, he's just providing a window into these internal struggles in a community that I'm not a part of. And I always appreciated that. And each one of his movies from, She's Gotta Have It all the way through, Jungle Fever, Mo Better Blues, Do the Right Thing. All of those movies are different ways of examining different different dynamics within the black community. And I just felt like I was privileged to be able to watch it. And like I said, this is one of my favorites because I was involved in, like you said, Mike, I was involved in the fraternity scene. I had been involved with Alpha Phi Alpha. We had done get-togethers and trying to work with each other. And, this was something that I'd been sort of adjacent to. And it just fascinated me.
John, what do you got?
I was just, especially with this movie, I was always impressed with the bravery in Spike Lee's approach of not being afraid. Doing more of the research after watching the film, the grief he got while he was shooting, and having to move to different locations because he was getting thrown off campuses and because they didn't want this story to be told.
Yeah.
And I think using the fact of having musical numbers in it and some humor in it, he was trying to soften it, but he wasn't afraid to, oh, by the way, excuse me for a second, I'm not, smack. Here's a point you should pay attention to. And I think that's the reason why I was glad I saw this later. I'm afraid if I saw it younger, I would have enjoyed the musical numbers and kept laughing, and I did, but I really was not afraid of it. And I also like the fact a lot of the dialogue seemed human to me. It was actual dialogue. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to write a big speech.
Yeah.
It just, there were certain scenes that I was going, the tension was there and everything else, and nobody was acting. They were keeping it eye to eye. And I loved that. And then again, they had some great jokes in it that were very human and very natural. I'm sorry, asking Laurence Fishburne to, after he was done yelling at them, do you want to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken? I laughed my ass off at that. I thought that was funnier than hell. Because I've had moments like that when I was in college when somebody said, are you going to get off your high horse now? We're going to Bob's Big Boy. Right. It's like, let's go. And that's the stuff what got me is that he kept it on a human level.
Yep. That's the beauty of that early independent movie scene where you could tell these stories and you're doing it on your own, and Hollywood didn't come in and step in and say you have to tell it this way, or there has to be this scene, or there has to be this type of joke. It was very pure, and it's such an early one of his movies that it's still very pure. Like he's almost testing the waters of what he can and can't say, because there's so many things he says in this movie, different subjects that he brings up along the way, that's just like, wow. I can't believe that this movie's being made, and it's only made a year after Robert Townsend's Hollywood Shuffle came out.
Right.
It was another amazing movie that said things that weren't being said up until that point.
That's a fantastic film. I've probably seen it 500 times, the Hollywood Shuffle.
Yeah, that one I saw in the movie theater, and that was like an introduction to like, oh, there's going to be a wave of black cinema coming. You should pay attention to it.
Exactly.
Isn't that Spike Lee, because I want to stay on topic as much as possible, isn't that Spike Lee makes these films that are good? They're good films. And some of them are perfect, because I want to get into Malcolm X next week.
Yeah,
That's a perfect film. It's unbelievably bleak. It's hard to watch, but I actually own a copy on Blu-ray. It's so fucking good. I owned it on DVD. I owned it on VHS. But what is and maybe Bill, or maybe both of you will know, what is the backlash? I think I have some idea, because in some sense, I can see, critically receptive, yes. My God, what a great film, what a great director, let's hear what this guy has to say, so on and so forth. But a cultural sort of backlash. And that a lot of people, I won't say most people, but I'll say a lot of people just, I don't know if it's eye rolling or if it's just like, fuck this guy or what. Is it that they're not understanding what he's trying to do? I have some input on that, but I'd like to hear what you guys think, where the pushback comes from when it comes to this guy.
If he was getting pushback at the time, I completely missed it. I was just completely divorced from all of that, not paying attention. I was just watching cool movies and thinking about them. But in researching this, I was surprised that a bunch of the videos that I watched, the presenters were saying, yeah, I saw this back in the day, and I didn't like it, and I grew to like this movie. But at first, the messages, I wanted to resist them, because it is an incrimination against yourself, basically. I really didn't pay attention to any backlash. There was some, I knew there was some around Malcolm X in '92, but then let's go all the way forward to Bamboozled was the first movie of his that I paid attention to any kind of backlash. And that one was a big one, where he held a mirror up to like the hip hop community, and they were like, fuck this guy. And I remember him getting shit for that, but I missed all of it during, 89, 90, 92, that whole era.
John, anything?
To me, it's a cliche what I'm going to say, so my apologies. But I think there's a lot of people who not only wanted to say, don't air our dirty laundry, as my parents used to say. There were some of them, I think, were saying, hey, stop including me in this dirty laundry. I don't think there were a lot of people who were surprised when he was doing it, that were saying, who are you to do this?
Right.
So to speak. This is only your second film. This is why I admire Spike Lee, because he was brave enough to say, no, this is what I'm viewing. As if you want to say artist, because I always have a hard time using that word. But in this sense, yes, even with the simplicity and a low budget, which he had, he really put it all on the line. And there were some people who were mad. I mean, the dean of his not the dean, the president of the school he graduated from, where they first started filming, didn't like the actor who was being presented as the president of the college, because, and he used a term I won't state because I find it hurtful. But it's exactly what Spike Lee was pointing out, and he was like saying, "Oh, you shouldn't use that guy," because exactly what Spike Lee was pointing out. The term rhymes with peekaboo is the best way I can.
No, jigaboo. Man, just say it. It's fucking.
I know, jigaboo.
Jigaboo.
I heard that term a lot I heard that term a lot in Philadelphia and saw fights break.
If we're going to cover Kevin,
right.
We're going to be talking about porch.
How dare I try to be polite? How dare I try to be polite? I mean, but he was. I thought it was ironic that he was presenting it this way, and the guy goes, "Oh, you should get rid of him because he's too much like a jigaboo." And he goes, "Well, that's what I'm kind of trying to show."
He's very brave, and later I heard people saying that he was self-hating because he made all these points, and that never struck me as being true.
Yeah.
He's anything but self-hating.
Well, I'll give you guys a peek into the curtain. Anytime you really, in any sort of substantial or public way, criticize, black culture or black people or something like that, and especially in the post-BLM era, you get called self-hating. You get called an Uncle Tom. You get called a coon. The black community does not do well does not do well with mirrors.
Right.
And maybe most cultures don't. I don't know, but especially I think black culture, they don't do well looking in the mirror. It's never their fault.
The thing about this movie and all his early movies is
hold on. I want to. I looked up some pushback.
Okay.
Major sources of pushback, substantial. He's one of the most polarizing American filmmakers, largely due to his direct, provocative explorations on race, racism, identity politics, interracial relationships, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Major sources: white critics, mainstream media, and conservatives. Early on, especially with Do the Right Thing, many white reviewers accused Lee of inciting racial violence, stirring up black anger. Critics like David Denby and others warned the film could spark riots, calling it, quote, dynamite under every seat, end quote, or suggested it would increase racial tension. Similar fears followed Malcolm X. Right-leaning outlets long labeled him a racial grievance monger or accused him of anti-white bias. Jewish organizations and critics, Mo Better Blues, drew heavy fire for stereotypical Jewish club owners. The Flatbush Brothers, called Shylocks, or money-grubbing characters by reviewers in the Anti-Defamation League. Lee wrote a New York Times op-ed defending himself, "I am not an anti-Semite." Similar critiques arose with other films featuring Jewish characters. Black community, intellectuals, and left radical voices. Lee often gets heat from within black audiences or activists. Some criticize Bamboozled for its minstrel show satire. Chirac, from 2015, faced backlash for centering black women's sexuality as a solution to gun violence, seen as reductive or sexist. Black Cake Klansman, 2018, was slammed by filmmaker Boots Riley and others as propaganda or for portraying a black cop positively and allegedly distorting history to soften police critique. Some black intellectuals, Stanley Crouch, have called his style Afro-fascist chic. Hollywood, it's interesting. He seems to be pissing everybody off, which is probably a good sign.
It's so weird, Mike. It's so weird because at the time, I got to say it, at the time, all these movies came out at a time when racism was becoming less and less of an issue.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't exist in a vacuum. There was a whole cultural shift going on between, let's say, 1987, 88, all the way up until April 91 and the LA riots, where race was becoming less and less of an issue. And it seems like people were putting on him these bogus claims to keep racism alive, where, I don't know how to describe it. It came up from the culture, but it was also at a time when you had KRS-One and Tribe Called Quest and Public Enemy, and you had, the Cosby Show, and you had a million things that were mainstreaming black culture and black issues, and it wasn't getting this kind of slapback from the white community. The white community was like, okay, we get it, we understand, we're going to work with this, you know?
I do know, I can say this, and I think, perhaps I've misjudged this guy, or at least with the films. But I do know that when most of the quote unquote black movies or series come out, the Mississippi burnings, come out, these sorts of things, it usually does gender a lot of resentment among black audiences that are watching.
Yeah.
You
that was higher learning, man.
Well, wait, because you reach that point and you're like, who the fuck is this for?
Right.
Right.
Like every time, like remaking Roots, and we're getting a little off topic, but it's within the parameters of what we're trying to say. And so you get to the point. I saw a black comic the other day, and he's like, do you think they're for us? Like there's nobody gets anything out of these. The boys in the hood. At the end where everybody completely forgets that these guys are fucking up their own communities, and Ice Cube does that thing where nobody cares what's happening. It's like, buddy, you're beyond help what's happening in here. And so maybe he gets unfairly lumped together in that categorization.
Yeah.
Because like you said, by the time we got to the 90s, and by the time we got to the end of the 90s, racism had pretty much just fucking gone away.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think you can close the door on what's been opened again. But back then, 25 years ago, no, it was pretty much gone. So, maybe he got unfairly lumped into these sorts of things. They are strong statements. They're extremely powerful and unapologetic statements. I don't know that I would watch this movie again. But yeah, I mean, the last 5 or 10 minutes of it, where he's kind of saying, "Don't fucking do this."
Yes.
See what we just watched? Don't fucking do this. It woke me up. It snapped me out of the whole thing.
Right.
The last 5 or 10 minutes snapped me out of something otherwise I was completely disinterested in.
And I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that he turned around and. I mean, people keep talking about the last moment where the fourth wall was broken. I would say, no, I think the last 10 minutes and a few other moments in this movie, the fourth wall was being broken. They just happened to look at the camera at that point in time or face the camera.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. And I think that's the reason why, again, I was kicking myself, yet happy with myself to see it. Now, a little older in my youth.
It's refreshing to hear you guys say that since it's a first time watch, because I've been thinking the same thing since whatever it was that I saw in 1991 or 92. I mean, my favorite scene in the whole thing is when he confronts those working class guys at Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's the best line.
It's a very intense scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge to put on a screen in 1988. To step up to guys and go, "You're not niggers." That was amazing.
Behind the scenes, Spike Lee's follow-up to the low-budget She's Gotta Have It, which was made for $175K.
And it looks it.
School Day had a $6.1 to $6.5 million budget, financed by Columbia Pictures after Island Pictures dropped out over cost concerns. It was a big leap. With more than 75 speaking roles and hundreds of extras. Film ran from March to May of 1987. Primarily shot in Atlanta at real HBCUs, Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Atlanta University, for authenticity. Based on Lee's Morehouse experiences, these schools kicked the crew off after about 3 weeks due to concerns over the film's portrayal of HBCU life, negative aspects like divisions and hazing. Filming finished at Morris Brown College. Here's a question: did you like Fishburne's character?
No, he's a douchebag. As much a douchebag as Giancarlo's. They're both problematic. He's showing these two extremes that are being ridiculous and fighting each other and dragging everyone in to this battle of extremes. I mean, who's the moderate in this thing?
You know who the moderate is?
Sanford Marsalis? Is it his friend who just wants to get laid on the weekend? That's the moderate. And you see how these two extremists are polarizing the community.
John, what did you think? Did you like his character? Maybe you did. I don't know.
I didn't dislike his character, but I knew his character. I've seen them. I saw characters like many of the characters in this movie in back in Stockton University when it was called Stockton State in Pomona, New Jersey. I mean, I used to work at, like I mentioned, like campus activities, which was the place where they did the dances and everything else. They had several step competitions there. And some of them would sit and talk with me, and some of them would sit and look at me and sweat and just walk away because I was evil.
Mm-hmm.
But there was other ones who were, guys from the fraternities. We would sit around and bullshit and talk about it all the time. But I saw the extremes, and that's to me is what they were, the extremes.
Yeah.
I mean, when Laurence was talking about, getting half pint into the fraternity, and Esposito goes, "I'm from Detroit. You ain't," and I'm like, I've seen these two, and they're just butting heads, and I'm going, and you're not going anywhere. You're eventually going to knock each other out and just fall on the ground and not gain an inch.
Yep.
But the point about it was the way it was presented. I sat down and went, I started feeling for both of them, or at least, in my opinion, a few of them, because they showed a more human side to it instead of just seeing the one side.
Right.
And that's what I kind of liked.
The Fishburne's character was not flat.
No.
There was depth to his character. However, when he was in the beginning with the president and they called him on the carpet, so to speak, I understood why they were not conceding to his point of view. Because he's one of those people who's just perpetually dissatisfied.
Yep.
Yes.
And you can't open the door to people like that because it'll be the one thing. And then he's in the door. Now it's the next thing. And then it's the next thing. And then it's the next thing. And maybe something has to be slightly fucked up, but it's better than, being stuck catering to a list of endless demands.
Exactly.
So on and so forth. Hold on one second. You guys carry it. I got to. My next door neighbor, he mows my lawn. He's a nice guy, but he's one of those guys. He can't keep still. So it's like 20 minutes to 9, and he's outside mowing my lawn, and it's driving the dog crazy. He can't keep still. I'll be right back. Hold on.
All right.
I'm just wondering if he has headlights on the mower, because it's starting to get a little
dark.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was. I knew so many of these people that were there.
Yeah, I was there at the same time as you, and I know exactly who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those issues were caused by misunderstandings. My fraternity got in like a misunderstanding with one of the black fraternities, and their whole beef was, well, you guys never invite us to your step shows. And it's like, bro, we don't have step shows. But they had no idea that we didn't. They just thought that we were disrespecting them by excluding them, and we were being racist. And it's like, no, man, we don't do that. You don't know that about us, and we don't know that about you. We don't know what a step show is.
I remember going to one of the step shows, or having to work it and being in charge for one of the step shows, and one of the judges dropped out, and a guy from the Iota fraternity said, "Hey, do you want to judge?" He said, "You've seen enough of these." And I said, "If you take me, I'll be more than happy to sit and be honest about my opinion." And it was funny because the minute I started walking in the door, 2 other people jumped out of the crowd and said, "No, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And I went, "All right." And that, fair enough. I got that. I might be stepping over a boundary to some people.
Well, I think you were a motivator more than
They saw you and they're like, no.
Well, no, it's funny because it's a weird experience because of having my last name. There's some people who look at me and go, I mean, there was a guy I worked with at Cape May Stage who was Irish as hell and very drunk one night. He goes, "How the hell did you get a name like Alvarez?" And then he started coming in with some very racist comments, and I'm going, "All right, Jim, I'm going to just put you to bed because you're very drunk." But somebody else said, "How many times have you gotten that?" I said, "Dude, just a few years ago, I was doing something for a newspaper, and a guy was talking about the theater where I used to work, and he said, 'Well, what's your name?' And I said, 'John Alvarez,' and he gave me a look like I handed him a bag of shit."
Yep.
And he
Your
said, "You
brother
don't look
used to
like
talk about that.
He said,
too.
"You don't look like a border jumper to me." And I looked at him and said, "What makes you?" And I looked at him and said, "What makes you think I'm Canadian?" And he started like backing up, and I said, "No, no, no!" And all of a sudden, my mouth just started going.
Nice.
But it was just, it's kind of interesting, especially seeing in those moments. I loved it when the Laurence Fishburne crew got up and started doing their stepping.
Yeah.
I laughed my ass off at that because I've seen that too, pointing out the fact.
I'll be honest with you. I had no, I thought that the musical number about the hair.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. It said to heighten on-screen rivalry, Lee housed the wannabes, the light-skinned affluent characters, in better hotels than the jigaboos.
Yeah.
It created like real tension, so they were like really sort of pissed off at each other. And it said there was an unscripted brawl during the Greek show that Lee kept rolling on.
That kind of proves Spike Lee's point.
Yeah,
he was able to manipulate his actors to the point where they would actually start throwing hands because he ramped up those tensions. He took the light-skinned actors and put them in really fancy hotels, took the dark-skinned actors and housed them in a Mo 6 out on the highway and got them all riled up.
Yeah. He made the division to add to the tension, which
that is some method acting.
It seemed to work.
Some method directing right there.
Yeah. You like the dance number with the hair, the song, Mike, you said?
I thought it was a quality number. The subject material was of like zero interest to me. Zero.
The music is fantastic.
Actually, I thought that the moderate character was the one guy who was like the class president who finally fucking blows up between Fishburne. He's only in it for like 5 seconds. That was the moderate guy because he was just fucking insane. Like, he was just like a person.
And if you notice, both the characters went, whoa, what's wrong?
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck? Like the guy stepped out of like the prim and proper and just fucking like started dropping F-bombs and N-words.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, what the fuck is,
Yeah, whoa, what you doing?
So,
and that's another moment where I started laughing.
If we're going to talk about the musical number, I think it's time that we stop talking about the racial stuff and start talking about how fucking hot Tisha Campbell was when she was 20 years old. Jesus.
18.
I like Jasmine Guy better.
Okay, fair enough. She's pretty too.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny that the person who did the casting for A Different World did the casting for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
She is like a perennial in black. Yeah. She's rarely. I don't think she's done too much stuff outside of black shows, but she's like royalty in black films and black series. Doing years on the Martin show. I think she was in. Was she in Hollywood Shuffle?
I think so.
Was she part
I
of
do.
that?
I think so. I think she was helping with the casting on that.
She might have been. She was. She's always good. She's a solid performer. Never had to do anything too crazy, but she is. Yeah, she's good at this.
Mike? Did you read any of the articles where Reverend Jesse Jackson showed up to the set?
No. Oh God.
No, actually, he heard what was going on. He actually came in and shook all the actors' hands from both sides and said, "You're doing a good thing." He was actually all for the movie being made.
Good for him.
And it kind of took a lot of the tension off people giving it to Spike Lee, saying they don't want him here. He walked up and said, "No, this needs to be told." I was surprised at that when I read that.
It's just, it seems like, I don't know. In a way, although they get critically acclaimed, he's sort of making films for no one because no one, like black people don't want to hear this. I'll tell you right now, black people don't want to hear about any of this.
Right.
It's 20. Here we are, almost 40 years later, and all of these fucking things are worse than ever inside the black community. I'm not talking about, before we even get into like interracial sort of racism. But like I saw this and I'm like, wow, this guy really tried to do something by the time we got to the end. And then my second thought was, wow, it just went in one ear and out the fucking other. Just probably knowing black people just for spite reasons. Like I'm just not gonna fucking fuck you, and there you are.
Just because the intended audience isn't paying attention doesn't mean it's made for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Is it made for critics? Is it made for people who are just sort of out? Then it must be made for people that are outside the circle.
It's made for the moderates, man, more than anything.
It could also be made for some people in the circle, for lack of a better term, are afraid to speak up about it. When they see somebody else seeing it, they're going, "Hey, I'm not alone seeing this."
They covered this a little bit in Undercover Brother, where you get called a sellout. You're a sellout, and within the black community, that is a heavy fucking albatross. I never gave a fuck, but that is right. You do not want to be ostracized that way. That's like one of the worst things that can happen to you. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's one of the best fucking things that can happen to you, because then you got a fucking albatross off your fucking neck. But
it's that's the plot of Jungle Fever right there, man. Poor Wesley Snipes.
Chris Rock's early stand-up comedy was a lot of this. He was also mentioned. It was being mentioned, but there was a lot of people that didn't want to hear it. And as Chris Rock said, "The hell with it, I'm getting laughs. I'm going to keep going." But even he pulled back because he thought it was giving permission to other people.
There's a guy out now. There's a guy out now called Charleston White. And he's not a comic or anything. I think he's an ex-felon, but he just fucking lays into people. There's Pastor James Manning within the black community who's just fucking laying into people. Or Jesse Lee Peterson, who won the Coon Award. They actually, I'm like, the only reason you fucking won is because you're running unopposed. Because I'd love to win that fucking award. That'd be my fucking crowning achievement in life, the fucking Coon Award. Holy shit!
All right, on this episode 310, we nominate.
I'm gonna message
American Werewolf.
How do I fucking get on that list?
Who's that gay black Republican commentator? I cannot remember his name for the life of me. I want to reference a thing he said.
Helping you there, big brother.
I can't bring it up. Goddamn. You're like, there is no such thing. I can't remember his name. Forget it.
There's no such thing as racism?
No.
There's no such thing as a gay black Republican. Yeah.
Let's build one in a lab.
That's the accusation. He's a plant,
There you go.
It's a psyop.
Oh man.
Christ. So we're going through the generic arguments, everything that black people know, and maybe people that are outside the circle don't know. Oh, I didn't know that this was happening, and unfortunately, it happens every fucking day, in the household.
Right.
And then we get to the end.
Yeah. And
you get to what is essentially, I think, one of the darkest things I've seen in a long fucking time.
Yeah, dude.
And it's basically Giancarlo Esposito's character as the president of the fraternity decides to, move Spike Lee from a pledge to a brother. Spike Lee is this sort of socially awkward. He's a nerd. That's basically what he is. A fucking nerd. Yeah. Like it's Revenge of the Nerds. It really is. He's a fucking nerd. And he joins this black fraternity. And to be honest, they all look like fucking nerds. So maybe the whole thing is Revenge of the Nerds. And he decides that, he's not going to let Spike Lee remain a virgin. So he pimps out his girlfriend, Tisha Campbell, and manipulates her into fucking Spike Lee.
Yep.
Right.
And it's the gaslighting that he starts in on her. All of a sudden is just fucking awful. But I'll tell you what was worse than that was the scene where Spike Lee is in the bedroom with Tisha Campbell. Yeah. And I thought I swore up and down that he would be like, hey, we're not doing this. Or they would be in the bedroom and he's like, hey, we don't have to do anything. Just let's come out for 20 minutes and, leave it at that. He just stands up and takes his shirt off and he's like, let's fucking go. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, that is fucking, like, it reminded me of the rape scene in Leaving Las Vegas, if anybody remembers that, where Elizabeth walks into that room and she realized she walked into the wrong fucking room, and it's like kids, but all of a sudden they're not kids anymore.
Yeah.
They're like fucking scary, and that's what that reminded me of. And I'm like, that's where the movie just turns on its head.
Yeah, and that would have never gone through if it wasn't an independent movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's like taking Kevin Smith's first movie and having the original ending where Dante gets shot. It's just dark, and no one wants a dark ending. But good for Spike Lee for sticking to his guns and keeping it. Goddamn.
For me, it's what makes the movie.
Yeah.
It's what makes the movie. And maybe, I don't know if he's saying that all these things that I've shown you before can lead to this kind of, these sort of pettiness and the resentments and the mean-spiritedness, and the condescending, the condescension or the inferiority complex on the other side of that, can lead to this sort of just fucking darkness, almost like it produces some kind of evil. Because that's what it is.
Yep.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's just fucking evil when Giancarlo Esposito does. And you look at Tisha Campbell afterwards, and she's just fucking devastated.
Destroyed. Yeah, she's destroyed. I was like,
holy.
And it even like shocked, I think, the Laurence Fishburne character when he was yelling at Half Pipe. You, what have you become? You're not the,
And I thought one of the great scenes in the movie is that all Spike Lee's character can say to defend himself is to just keep yelling the mantra.
Yep.
Yeah.
A real man is an alpha man or a gamma man or whatever, and I'm a real, and he just keeps repeating, like there's no thinking there. It's just, I've got the pose, I'm in the pose, how can you say this,
That's the one universal subject in the whole movie is that kind of sexual dynamic and that kind of exploitation. That's every community's as guilty about that as every other.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, like I said, it's what grabbed me after like almost 2 hours, and I'm like, okay, this is everything I've had no interest in, and then all of a sudden the whole thing flips, and then it just ends, and it ends on this really ambiguous note where Fishburne is outraged because his cousin, at first it's like, hey, I'm not a virgin anymore. He's like, no shit, like what happened?
Yeah.
And then he tells him, and he just starts slapping him, like, what the fuck is wrong? Like he understands
wrong with you?
What it is, like how that happened, like what the fuck is wrong with you? And then he goes out and he calls the campus out, and it ends on sort of an ambiguous note, does it?
Well, that winds up sort of looking like the good figure, but you have to remember that he's as guilty as everyone else. Even though he's the one saying "wake up," at least he realizes this is fucked up. The whole thing's fucked up, and maybe he's talking about himself too. But you can mistake him for being the hero. He's not the hero. He's just the guy who realizes he's been wrong.
I took it as the character in the play, because initially when he was saying wake up, you saw all the other characters in the play waking up.
Right.
The Esposito character all of a sudden snapping up out of the bed, and Jasmine Guy is in the bed with him, and everyone, and as he kept screaming it, he got the attention, and then eventually that's when the fourth wall was completely broken, and they just looked at the camera. But I've seen a couple plays that way where the characters were saying, no, wait, enough, enough of this. We're done playing these characters. Wake up, get up.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I was kind of surprised and taken back, but then I saw it again and watched it a third time, and I kept on going, that's the message. They showed the whole thing, and then it suddenly wasn't Revenge of the Nerds.
Mm-hmm.
No.
They were saying, are you getting it yet? And I kind of like that. And I know people have argued both sides on this. Some people thought it was kind of dumb. I thought it was an interesting choice. And for the life of me, I'm probably still going to watch it again to see what my opinion is on it. it made me question a lot.
Good.
Like, why was I enjoying some of this? You know?
Jesus Christ! Now I'm
Okay.
running into shit in the dark. I hear him colliding into things outside. Just have a fucking
Sorry,
beer.
dude.
What are you doing,
It's weird that the next movie he does is Do the Right Thing, a
Right.
movie where every single character does the exact wrong fucking thing.
Right.
Which, you know, it one plays into the other almost like a like a Vonnegut novel.
But here's the thing about Do the Right Thing. I suppose, depending on if you have a limited sense of identity, you may not see that the other people in the movie are doing the right thing. You may think that one group is doing the right thing. That maybe Giancarlo Esposito has a legitimate point. You know, Danny Aiello should have that stuff up. You know, he shouldn't have Frank Sinatra on the wall. This, that, and the other. If you're Danny Aiello, you're like, yeah, maybe, you know, he should be able to do all this other stuff. And, you know, you see what I'm saying? Like, I think people aren't.
That's the thing, is that all of them have legitimate gripes, but they express it in the wrong way. That's what that whole movie is about, from beginning to end, with what's his name, Sam Jackson, just moderating the whole thing behind the microphone, like he's watching the whole thing happen. It's a brilliant movie.
And it's funny too, because at the end of this movie, after all the screaming was done and Esposito walked up, the last thing Laurence Fishburne says is actually in just a normal voice.
Yeah.
Wasn't even his character voice that he was playing.
What does he say? I don't remember.
He just says, "Wake up." I mean, just come on,
as himself.
wake up.
As
And it was just very simple. And you know, after all the dramatics and everything else is over, it was kind of just like, wake up. You know, I think that's what always got me. He didn't do it dramatically or standing there. It was just, hi, the character's gone. I'm Larry Fishburne.
Yeah.
Wake up. You know, and I liked that because they were both looking at it was, to me, it was a really interesting shot because it was just like, hi, makeup's off, costumes off. You know, are you getting it yet?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I appreciated this movie a lot when I first saw it, and I've loved it for a lot of years. And like I said, it's not his best movie, but it's really full of good stuff, man.
It shows a lot of his potential and where he was going with other films too.
Yeah,
it's
a lot more than She's Gotta Have It.
And we haven't talked about his camera work either. You start to see his camera work that he becomes real famous for later in this. The super close up of characters talking, the dolly shots, the rack focusing. It's all starting to come together in that movie, which we see it a lot more in Do the Right Thing and Mo Better Blues later.
Is part of the critique of his films part of the critique of him? Because like Bill said, you kind of think he's an insufferable douchebag.
I do.
I was looking at some critiques here. You know, he was criticizing Clint Eastwood. There were not enough black people in his war movies. He's criticizing Tarantino for the use of the N-word. I criticized Tyler Perry. You know, demanding black directors for black stories. Too didactic, too stereotypical. You know, these sorts of things. Is that unfairly sort of meshed together, or is it indivisible?
I think his movies are better expressions of what he wants to say than the things he says off the cuff. It's kind of like when you listen to the Pope, like Pope Francis, when he was saying things officially and well thought out. Made a lot of sense. It's all good. And then he would go talk to a reporter and say the dumbest shit you ever heard in your life. And be like, that fucking commie's got to shut the fuck up. It's the same thing, man. The artistic temperament. Spike Lee is a great filmmaker, and he's a douchebag.
The question is, go ahead, Michael. No, go ahead.
I don't think that you can make these types of films and be a congenial person. I don't think that that's compatible. There's a lot of contentiousness within a person to write a story like this, to write a Do the Right Thing, to write a Malcolm X. And it's interesting because a lot of people say that he's lost his edge, or he's become too mainstream. But I mean, it would be exhausting to spend your whole life, trying to do this
Right.
shit. Like life goes on. I got a wife, I got kids, like maybe I got grandkids now or some shit like that. Like life goes on. I made these movies. People didn't want to listen, so I'm just going to go off I'm going to make like my love letter to Sidney Lumet, or I'm going to make 25th Hour, like I'm going to have fun now, and
he's someone who could do with some humility. You can make statements like that, bold statements like that, but not inject yourself into the political process with the media. There's plenty of people who do that, and he's not one of them. He uses
but are you then not judging his work and judging him?
I judge them both separately. The movies are the movies, and the movies are really good, and he makes really good points. I can't not say that. Sometimes he's a little bit stereotyped in the way he portrays certain other ethnic groups outside of his own community. Summer Sam's one example, but I've always found his movies to be somewhat fair and somewhat accurate. What can I say?
No, I agree. No, I agree with you on that.
I think it's going to be an interesting month. I'm glad we're not talking about Wes Craven.
Hey, sure, it's not too late.
Strategically, that's why I took off for a month. So I went into exile.
To decompress from that bullshit, Jesus Christ!
I lost some weight while doing it. So good.
Good. I can only apologize.
No problem. That's all right. No.
All right. We are. Is there anything about this film that we have not discussed that anybody would like to touch upon? Get into
the music. Bill Lee's great. Spike Lee's always pushing the jazz on his audience. It's an art form that the intended audience ignores completely and is embraced by the weirdest people on the planet. But Billy does fantastic work on this movie. He's as good and as effective as John Williams. You gotta watch this movie. Just listen to the music. It's fantastic. Like you said, the dance numbers are well done. He wrote the music for those two. It's just good stuff.
It probably wouldn't be something bad, if you had a short drive to pull up on your Spotify, like the soundtrack or whatever, that sort of thing. I don't see that I could sit here and watch this again for 2 hours. Like I got it. I appreciate what he did. Unlike some of because I have some Spike Lee films on physical media. This just isn't one of my favorites. But I appreciate what he did, and it's very ambitious for a second effort. That's hats off. It's been 40 years, and here we are 38 years later talking about.
It's been 38 years. Jesus fuck, I'm old.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. All right, I'll say it again. Bill, you're old. All right, let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather be stuck in the same underwear for a week rather than watch this movie again, all the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination, this is why I watch films in the first place. Let's go with Big Brother B Almighty. What would you give Spike Lee's School Daze?
Straight up a 4. It's not his best movie, but you can see his style coming out. It's got a lot of great scenes, great music. It's enjoyable. And like I said, I've watched this movie over and over and over the last 38 years, and I enjoy it. So 4.
All right. John K. Alvarez, pledge name of Court Low. What do you got for us?
I'm going with Big Brother Be Almighty. I was giving it a 4 too.
Yes,
I'm right there.
4 out of 5.
You do see everything that he eventually turns into, and it's all right there, and it's like he's taking the baby steps, and it works.
Yep.
I'm going to go with a 3.5.
Okay.
Because I've lived behind the curtain, and so none of this was a revelation to me. And if it wasn't for the last 5 or 10 minutes, I would have said this movie was a POS. However, the fact that, the message at the end and the fact that he flips it to get so dark really caught me. And so I understood what he was trying to do at the end. But having grown up, I've probably been forced to sit through like all of these. Whenever a black movie comes out growing up, I had to sit there and I'm like, oh, Jesus, I don't want to watch this anymore. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And that was, but I've just done like fucking burnout.
Right.
However, I am glad now that I caught this, like you, John, at this age, where there was enough distance for me to just sort of watch, with the least amount of bias that I can muster and enjoy it. So I'm going.
Fair enough.
3.5. All right, Big Brother B, plug something.
Look for the Ye Old Bottom Turns, my surf band. We are playing in the Monmouth area sometime soon, hopefully somewhere in Brick, maybe, somewhere in Belmar, maybe. But we're working on it. We got something in the works for September as well, and we are going to hit the Belmar Surf Festival at the end of the summer. So look for us. We're called the Ye Old Bottom Turns. We play surf music.
Okay, sounds real good. John K. Alvarez, what do you got for us? Anything?
I actually had to go grab the poster so I can actually read all of it.
Oh.
I'm back at working at Cold Spring Village, the Living History Museum down here in Cape May County. Last week we did a lovely tribute, even in the heat, for the 250th anniversary for the Declaration of Independence, where I am one historian got to read it publicly, standing in a little courtyard. To the point that I talked them possibly into it, and I'm going to find out tomorrow. For the whole month of July, the two of us are going to step out there and read the Declaration of Independence for the 250th anniversary.
Nice.
And for this week's festival, it's called Early American Trades. We're going to have people who are doing certain crafts and things like that, like blacksmiths and everything else, who are actually going to give bigger lectures and explain things. Some farmers that work on our fields are going to be coming out and explaining, especially to kids, it really works. They explain what these trades were being done at that time. So if anybody is interested, it's at historic Cold Spring Village on Route 9 or Seashore Road. We have two different entrances in Cape May County, New Jersey, 08204. Also, this week, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the tavern that we actually restored and brought to the village, which actually saved the village during COVID.
Nice.
Because we had to shut the village down, but we kept the bar open. We were smart in case anybody needed a drink. And it's a very lovely place that actually, Bill, if you get a chance to come down here, they do music Fridays and Saturday nights, but they close at 8. So you can do like an early show and then do another show later on at another location, because a couple of bands do that. They go like 5 to 8 type deal. They do 2 sets.
All right.
Nice.
That sounds okay. John, in the future, like you usually do, email me the flyer.
Didn't even dawn on me, Michael, until I looked at my refrigerator and said, oh, shoot, I forgot to email this to Michael.
All right, fair enough. For this channel, let's see, what's going on with me? Let me drop a quick reference. I rarely do this, but I'm going to do it. I just saw that movie, Young Washington, over the past weekend, and it was solid. And yes, Bill, he does essentially start the French and Indian War.
Yes, he does.
The way the film does it, it sort of portrays him as someone who is basically set up as like a colonial patsy by the British. Like, go out there and do this thing. If you fuck it up, then you're a colonial. You're not one of us. But if you get it right, that's fine too, and we'll take credit for it. The British, always. Mm-hmm. So he sort of does start the French and Indian War, but I enjoyed it, and I think you should see it. I think it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile.
Cool.
It is also Evil Dead Week. The new Evil Dead movie drops this Friday, and I've got tickets, suckers. So I'll be going to that Friday night. Saturday night it's also Conor McGregor Fight Week. So Conor McGregor back on Saturday night. He's going to be moving up to 170 and smashing that punk ass Max Holloway. So I'm looking forward to that for this channel. Let me ask you guys, which would you prefer to do? In which order? Do you want to do Inside Man or do you want to do Malcolm X?
I've never seen Inside Man. I'm interested to see it.
Okay. John?
I could go for either or because I like both of them. But if you want to do Inside Man before Malcolm X, yeah, let's do it.
Malcolm X is kind of heavy. Okay, so let's do Inside Man. It is available, and I will send. It's available online on a free link, on a free channel on it's like a .com, where you can watch it. It is his love letter to Sidney Lumet, and it's got quite an ensemble cast. So next week we'll be back with Spike Lee's Inside Man, which I personally love. One of my favorites, having absolutely nothing to do with race. So I'm all about that. All right, my thanks to Big Brother B Almighty. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. We will see you all in the next video. All right, take care.